Hello and welcome to another Tuesday Talk with Ruby Reese. My name is Killian. I'm co-founder at Ruby Reese and at dognutrition.ie, and I'll also be your host for this podcast. Today, talking about a really important topic, we'll be talking all about dog grooming and in particular fear-free dog grooming. Now, loads of you will have experienced this firsthand, and even those of you that haven't, I think, might be interested in this because there's loads of different ways that a dog might become fearful of a grooming situation. Lots of kind of unusual machinery that makes sounds that they mightn't be used to, loud noises, clipping noises, things going on behind their ears and behind their heads that they can't see, maybe on tables that they might have had past trauma with at a groomer or a vet or wherever it might be. So I think lots and lots of us will identify with the tall task that we ask our dogs when going to a groomer. And we have a very special guest coming on, a fellow Corkonian here, Clip A Doodle Doo's Jess came on to chat with me all about fear-free techniques in the dog grooming world. So without further ado, I think I'm going to invite you now to listen in to the chat that I had with Jess. Hi Jess, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Would you do us the pleasure of introducing yourself briefly for people that might not know you yet?
Yeah, so I'm Jessica. I am the owner of a dog grooming salon in the city in Blackpool, Clip A Doodle Doo. I've been grooming a few years and I have my own salon 2 years, just 2 years next month now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I own a doodle, which was the inspiration for that name and salon and the whole ethos behind it. So,
and I absolutely love the name as well. And you have a brilliant philosophy, I think, that you're working quite a lot with fear-free grooming, right? Or we hear quite a lot about this. So maybe for people that haven't heard the term before, can you explain what fear-free grooming even means and how it might differ to more traditional grooming methods?
Yeah, sure. So conventional grooming, I guess, is very task orientated. So the way even myself, the way you're taught to groom is to, obviously there's a welfare perspective in it. So we need to get a job done for the dog's welfare. A lot of dogs need their coat maintained in a certain way, so their welfare can be intact. But with fear-free grooming, what you're trying to do is keep their emotional welfare intact or their mental well-being intact as well. Or putting it before the groom where you can. But it's a bit of a balancing act because, like I said, obviously, welfare-wise, they physically have to have grooming done. So you're trying to balance the physical well-being of the dog, but keeping the emotional well-being of the dog at the forefront. So fear-free is, I suppose, keeping the whole process as comfortable as possible, not pushing the dog past what it's able to cope with. If they're showing signs of fear or stress or any of those things, you give breaks or you stop, or you basically work the grooming on what the dog is telling you they can cope with. So the whole philosophy is that the dog doesn't experience any fear or stress or shutdown or any of the negative things that can come with grooming. And that doesn't come from one particular groomer or what a groomer is doing right or wrong. It's just the grooming process in itself can be a very fearful event for a dog. So fear-free is trying to remove that aspect of it for the dog as much as possible. But it is a bit of a balancing act. As much as you can, you try to make them more comfortable in the situation.
And that's it. And it was you made a really interesting point, that it's also could potentially be a welfare issue for a dog that needs to be groomed but can't be groomed because they're and I suppose their guardian or their owner is thinking of the best for them because they say, in a way, they care about them. They say, God, the dog is terrified, so I don't want to send them to the groomer. But then you're bringing a brilliant point that this could also be a huge welfare issue, over time.
Yeah.
So it's also the balancing act of trying to make
Exactly.
sure that the
I probably
dog's
went off
overall.
point a bit with the welfare thing, but it's for me it was like almost an internal like confliction. When I
Hmm.
started grooming, I saw the point which a lot of groomers make that like this job has to be done for their physical welfare. But I also saw the more I learned about behavior, and even back when I didn't know much about behavior, I kind of picked up that it can be very damaging to their emotional well-being, and there has to be some kind of balancing act. And that's where I went looking for other ways to do it, you know. And that's
And
where fair free grooming came from for me, you know.
and actually, that's a brilliant leeway into my next question. What inspired you to even combine those dog training concepts with grooming in the first place?
Yeah, so I suppose it's all nearly for all of us. You're the same, I think, all of us. It all goes back to that one dog we all had ourselves, doesn't it?
Hmm.
She was my main inspiration. So I have a doodle, Dixie, who really, really struggled with handling and grooming, all that sort of stuff. And it was around the time when I was just going out on my own as a groomer that I took her in.
Hmm.
And you can imagine being a groomer with a dog with a beautiful coat, but you're looking at the dog not being able to handle being groomed, um, so I actually went and done a course with Annie Ed on, it was basically I suppose you could call it a cooperative care course. It was
Hmm.
developing procedures for dogs like this. And my mind was blown. Like,
You
I had
started off down the rabbit hole.
yeah, that was it. Like, so I suppose she was the inspiration for, I had her in front of me, Dixie, she couldn't cope. I wanted to help her. So I have that kind of like empathy as an owner as well as a groomer. Like, I was the guardian of one of those dogs. Um, and I did like way back, even when I was training and grooming and first grooming in pet shops and stuff like that, I always like, I wanted to know the why. So like,
Hmm.
if a dog was behaving in a certain way, I didn't just make up my own answer I didn't take what everybody said was always the reason for it or how we always done it. I always wanted to know why. And even when I was
Hmm.
training and grooming, I really delved into the science behind grooming because I wanted to understand why we do that, what that product does, you know. So I was always that kind of way. So that was kind of stirring in me as it was. And then I suppose fate would have it. I ended up with Dixie and I actually experienced firsthand what it can be like to be a guardian of a dog like that. And I'm so glad I ended up then doing the course with Annie Ed because if anybody will open your mind to stuff, it's Anne Rogers. Like,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
Anne has been on the podcast a couple of times now,
yeah,
and every time Anne opens her mouth, we all learn
yeah,
so
exactly.
much.
So
So
that
it's
was the beginning of that for me. Yeah, it was kind of combination of being a guardian, being a groomer, and then like landing on that course with Annie Ed. It was like, so there is another way we can do this, you know, and looking to
mhm.
understand the dog and help them in whatever way possible instead of just going, well, this has to be done and that's that. It's just a task, do you know?
Yeah,
It's very task
absolutely.
orientated, the conventional way.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can totally get that because there's a job to be done,
Mm.
and I suppose in a sense it's terrible to say, but you know a lot of people are training people so that they can build up small businesses of their own, and time is money in a service
Yeah.
oriented business. So I suppose it's you're kind of going down a path then where you're not thinking about but other things, and some dogs are individuals that need a little bit more time and might need more kind of time even for just comforting or getting to know
Yeah,
the salon or whatever. So I totally get that as well, and it's
100%.
it's
Yeah,
it's not really about playing the blame game here at all. It's just saying that there's different aspects and lots of different things coming together.
definitely.
You mentioned things as well about some signs that dogs give. So um I suppose you probably see hundreds, if not thousands, of different little mini signs that dogs give that they're stressed or fearful during a grooming session. But what are the most common ones that maybe we could be looking out for?
Yeah, there are a lot. And you know what? It actually crosses over a lot into like general reading your dog and understanding, you
Hmm.
know, in all aspects, in every environment, but they will use the same types of behaviors. So like I suppose you could start with dogs that are reluctant to come into the salon in the first place. They
Hmm.
know, it could be that they know what it is and what happens there, a bit like the way you'd see with a vet, with the dog going to the vet. Or it could be that it's a new place and they're just one of those dogs that's really nervous of a new place. And when they're inside, then you can have, like, you'll get dogs who'll turn over on their belly. That's a common one. And you can
Hmm.
misconstrue that as, oh, she wants a lovely belly rub. But she's really going, please don't hurt me, you know? And I'm really scared and I'm really, look, I'm not, you know? And then you'll get, like, I suppose, frozen behavior, frozen
Hmm.
body, stiff, the common stuff you always see in training and stuff. So, like, whale eye. Um,
Hmm.
Lip flicking, that's a common one,
Yeah.
or licking you. This is one that I
Yeah.
actually found from speaking to a lot of groomers. Like, they don't realize that the dog can be licking you as a, like, distance creating act.
Okay.
So, like, they think the dog is, like, loving on them, and, like, I get it 100%. I thought that at one time too, you know.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
And they think, like, oh, but she's licking me and jumping up on me, she must, but she's actually trying to create distance, and
Hmm.
using it as a, like, a displacement behavior sometimes then as well. So they don't know what else to do. So they start licking or doing something that doesn't fit into. And that brings us into another common one that's really missed, is fooling around or fawning. So they, like, get very playful and jump up on you, and that can be a sign sometimes that dogs aren't coping,
Yeah.
and that they want it to stop. And it's a very, very misunderstood one, actually. And
Hmm.
obviously there are the very obvious ones when we go up the ladder of regression, like growling, snapping, showing teeth,
Hmm.
hard stares and stuff. Typically what you would see in all scenarios where a dog is uncomfortable, you know?
I suppose, like, even when we look at human behavior, there's lots of things that you could misinterpret easily if you hadn't been spending years and years, which we all are, of figuring out what our parents' faces mean as kids,
Yeah.
and what everyone else's faces mean. Like, even a smile. A smile, yes, of course, it could be happy or friendly, but it could also be mischievous. It could be
Yeah.
threatening. It could be
Yeah.
nervous. There's so many different things that
Yeah, and that kind
even
of goes
simple
with
things.
dogs as well. Like, you know, dogs can do the, like, tight mouth and it looks like a smile, but they're actually
Hmm.
really tense and stressed. And I actually find a lot of people, that's a commonly, like, misinterpreted one. And you've probably heard it. I've definitely heard it. I might have said it myself at the start of my career or when I was training. That bite came out of nowhere, but there was
Hmm.
probably a lot of signaling and behaviors that we don't consider stress signaling or lower down on the scale of trying to create distance. You know, I always say, like, it's not until they go up into the aggressive behaviors a lot of the time in the grooming salon that they're listened to.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I even find myself, like, being at work myself, and I'm hyper vigilant of dogs and reading them and stuff now. And I go, you know what? A lot of us as groomers are put in positions where we actually see these kind of, like, early signals, and we kind of have to still work on. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I know I was at the start, and I know from speaking to other groomers, there are stuff that happens. Like, how many dogs go into a groomer's and, like, maybe freeze or cower, and they're still picked up and put in the bath because the job needs to be done, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a
Absolutely.
bit like, it's you kind of get more conflicted the more you know.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, of course, that's always the way.
Yeah,
You start seeing the potholes in the road.
yeah.
But it's like, I suppose you have to give credit to the whole grooming industry as well. Like, I mean, the work that you guys do is just phenomenal and so difficult, and I don't know how you do it. Like, I mean, you're dealing with new dogs all the time. You're
Mm.
working with time limits a lot of the time. You're working with customers and their preferences, but also wet dogs. You're working with water. You're working with electricity at the same time. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving pieces, and I don't think everyone, sharp objects. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah,
So there's a lot going on, and then on top of it, trying to understand the dog's behavior. So I get it that some signs can be missed every now and then. I mean, it's
yeah.
to give credit to everyone. It's a
Definitely.
lot.
Like, Jesus, that. let me just pay homage to groomers here, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet. All groomers, like, and I was a person before I trained as a groomer who had no comprehension of how difficult it was, like
Yeah.
none. And by God, they are some of the hardest working people I have ever met, and they juggle so much. And it's a bit like I was saying, back to like what I was saying a few minutes ago, they're kind of like so up close and personal with dogs every day, different dogs, but that's part of the reason as well that I do believe that like behavioral training should be there for groomers, for that
Yeah.
reason. And I know it's a lot to juggle, but the very fact of all what they are trying to juggle, behavioral training could definitely help there, and
And I
it's not
suppose
commonly
for
provided in groomer training.
absolutely, I agree with you. And I suppose from an outside perspective as well, it's offering welfare for everyone involved,
Yeah.
both the dogs and the groomers
Yeah,
themselves, because
definitely.
nobody wants a bite case.
Yeah,
I mean, regardless of that being the owner guardian, being that the dog definitely doesn't want to be put in a situation that they end up snapping, and the groomer certainly doesn't want to be going to A&E either.
exactly.
With these things. So I suppose it's definitely like if you look at it through that lens, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
So
It's a very good point you made. Like, and a lot of groomers are self-employed.
yeah.
And even if they're not self-employed, they can't go to work if they're physically injured on their hand, we'll say, then they're out of work. Um,
Mhm.
we don't want dogs getting that label. We all know how damaging that is. Sometimes they're just given that label and they're not, like, the context is not considered. So from all aspects, to protect the dog, to protect their caregiver, to protect the groomer, behavioral training, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's a no-brainer, do you know?
Yeah, definitely. Even from an insurance perspective, it would make a lot of sense,
Yeah.
if it was encouraged. Yeah, absolutely. And talking about dogs now that are stressed. So, say you've seen some of the signs that maybe a dog might not be living their best life coming into the grooming salon in the first place. Do you use any techniques to reduce a dog's anxiety on the grooming table? And I'm presuming this is going to be slightly individual anyway, for every dog, isn't it?
Yeah, very individual. I do totally take every dog as an individual, but I do have
Mm-hmm.
like some kind of set routines that like I try to, the main goal is to try and not let them get to that stage.
Mm-hmm.
So, like when I'm introducing a dog to the salon for the first time, we'll say I do a meet and treat where they
Mm-hmm.
just visit with their owner for maybe 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever, just a quick like take a treat if they'll take a treat. Hello, this is the place. You know what it looks like. You know who I am, just for a couple of minutes. There's familiarity. We all know familiarity is very important to dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will do a session. So if we're doing like a full fare free groom or a cooperative care grooming plan, I will do the next session will be like maybe they'll come in and hang out with me. And then there'll be like snuffle mats or lick mats or different things around toys. I'll watch what they like, as well as I'll be after collecting information from the owner. But that first session will be take them and leave them, have some tasty food, treats, toys, whatever they like. And if they come to me and they're okay with being touched, then I'll touch them in that session.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not, I won't. If we'll say, like, back to, sorry, I'm diverging from the question. So back to the question, if they're quite stressy, if they're coming as a dog who doesn't cope well with handling or grooming, then there won't be touching. It will just be trying to say, this is a place where you have a bit of autonomy over yourself. Like, I won't
Mm-hmm.
force you to be touched. I won't force you to do anything. I will make positive associations for them. Hopefully, that's the goal. And they're just given the time to say when you're ready, basically, when you're comfortable here, that's when we'll do. And a lot of the time, that can make a huge difference to dogs who are scared. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
The autonomy is amazing, isn't it?
yeah,
That they can say, okay, let's do this. Let's get this over and done with. But at
yeah.
least,
And like,
at least it's there on their terms.
yeah. So like when a lot of the time they're really scared. they, like, it goes back to what we were talking about, the signals or the communication they tried to give about being scared, needing help or needing a break or needing to take it slower, are ignored, and not intentionally. It's not intentional, a lot of the time. It just happens. And when they're actually given the time to say, no, I see what you're saying, and we're going to go at
Hmm.
your pace, they relax a lot more, and it can be long and slow, but when you go through the process, then it will kind of stand to them forever, you know?
Absolutely. It takes a
Um,
lot of the drama out, a lot of the
yeah,
kind of
and sometimes
excitement out
you're
of.
trying to figure out as well what are the triggers. So that's an
Mhm.
important point. You're watching the dog to try and figure out, and you're talking to the guardian to try and figure out, like, some dogs, restraint can be extra stressful. They have issues with the clipper, or they're fine with the bat. They don't like the dryer. It's figuring those things out and maybe coming up with alternative ways as well. So, like, I have one dog in particular who cannot have water, like the shower, go over
Mhm.
his head. So I put a little jug with, like, basically a cloth, like a dishcloth, and I squeeze the water over his ears and head. And now he'll stand there and allow me to do that. So yeah, his head, his face, and his ears, they need to be washed. They need to be groomed. But I found a way, instead of him flailing around the bat and feeling, obviously it's a fear, it feels uncomfortable or scary to him. So we find a way to do it that doesn't feel like that, and we still get the job done. Some dogs have issues with being picked up. So
Mhm.
if their issue is being picked up, I'll teach them to walk up the ramp, or I'll give them the
Yeah.
choice to jump on the table themselves. So yeah, I suppose you're really figuring out the triggers, and it's very rarely that every aspect and whole part of the groom. There's usually different bits, and you can tweak it to make them feel more comfortable.
Mhm.
Then there's other things, like just being separated from their guardians can be, there can be dogs with separation anxiety, and just being left with somebody else is enough to send them over the edge. Then I let the owner stay, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that's amazing, and yeah, it's great to hear. How, yeah, not every single element of a groom is usually the
Yeah,
problem. Of course, when you think about it, because there's the triggers are just so varied, and there's so much going on at a grooming session. So
yeah.
of course it makes total sense, and I love the idea of the autonomy, because now I have to fess up a bit here. Ruby is a short-haired Frenchie. She is washed at home in the shower, but she actually, um, we've trained her to go up the stairs on her own and go into the shower on her own. So like that's
Uh,
how we always do it. She's never lifted in or made go in. She knows what's going on,
that's
and she
amazing.
doesn't
She's choosing to have the shower.
like, I think she's choosing to get it over
Yeah.
with, is what she's doing. Now Ruby is a dog that she likes to be clean anyway. But yeah, I think she knows now at this stage we use exactly the same routine every single
Yeah,
time.
that's
And I know
fantastic.
you said you use routines. She knows exactly what's coming. She knows how long it's going to take. She knows everything, and it just every single step says the
Yeah.
same. So I love that autonomy that you're offering some dogs that are going to appreciate it, or the fact that that dog where you use the cloth instead of the bath,
Yeah.
that he kind of realizes, okay, we've made a big compromise here.
Yeah, and like I always say as well, like, it's a very, very far-fetched thing to expect a dog to like being groomed. And I
Hmm.
know as humans, like, we love, well, most of us anyway, probably not anybody who works with dogs, but we love going to salons, and it's a treat, and it's a day out, and it's an enjoying experience. We choose to go there, like, and we kind of project that on dogs, but it's not like that for them. Like,
Hmm.
it's not, probably, I can't say for certain, but it's not like that for many dogs anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, we just expect so much from them, and we have that idea that, oh, it should be a salon, it should be an enjoyment, but like, it's not that for dogs. And the most we can expect is to not, and I'm never out to make a dog like grooming, because that's probably impossible. It's
Yeah.
just teach them, like, exactly what you described with your Ruby. It's teaching them to, you have a choice in the matter. So, like, she has a choice.
Yeah.
The predictability of how it's done, which is very big for dogs. Like, they know every step and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like just giving them the tools to just comfortably tolerate. That, I love that phrase. Like, I don't want dogs to love grooming because that's unattainable. Like, at my best guess, but teaching them to just comfortably tolerate it, which is like, even when I said to you, oh, she chooses to go up there, and you said she wants to get it over it. Yeah, so
Yeah,
you gave her the tools to comfortably tolerate that shower, you know? And that's
exactly.
kind of my goal mostly.
We briefly interrupt this podcast to bring you a message from our dear sponsors, ourselves at dognutrition.ie. If you feel your dog's diet is not optimised for them, you can sign up for a free discovery call on our website. This is an opportunity for you to provide us some details of where your dog is at right now, and we can see if we're the right professionals to help you on your journey. After this call, you can make an informed decision about moving forward to a consultation with dognutrition.ie. Thank you for your attention. Now we will get back to the podcast. And I suppose there'll be lots of people now sitting at home saying, well, I do go to the groomer, but I know that my dog's a bit fearful. What can pet parents do at home maybe to prepare their dogs for grooming appointments?
So actually a big thing with going to groomer appointments is avoiding things that are stressful already to the dog, and these can be things that have nothing at all to do with grooming. So like, you know, they can like stack up stress in the day, like us, you know, if you had a very bad day, like you got out of bed late, you missed your bus, you know, it stacks up. And then by the time you get to work and somebody says the wrong thing to you and you're just not in the form, you've had enough already. It can be like that with grooming as well. So like, if you know, some owners will say, oh, I have a real hyper dog, I'll take him for a big long walk and he'll be nice and tired for the grooming, but that dog is scared of traffic, or he's scared of other dogs, or he doesn't like the car, or, you know, different things. If you go out doing those things on the morning before the groom, their tolerance is their stress is really stacked up by the other things that they find stressful, and their
Yeah,
tolerance is really low, understandably, by the time they get to the grooming salon. So it actually has the opposite effect, you know.
yeah.
So I would say before grooming, keep their morning calm and relaxed, and do keep it as normal as possible, and avoid stress before. If it's a dog that struggles with grooming, the more you can keep them kind of like happy and comfortable before they go grooming, then you're off to the right start, you know.
Yeah.
And then you can also, like, in general, preparing dogs for grooming. Practice at home is very important. I do think, and I think all groomers should offer the opportunity for owners to visit the salon with their puppies or with new dogs that are first being introduced to grooming. So like, just visit. And a lot of vets are doing it now as well, like to make dogs more comfortable with veterinary visits. Visit the place, leave the dog, see the place, see the person. You know, that's a very good thing to do. Again, familiarity is huge to dogs. And then I suppose you can practice handling. It's hard for owners to practice when they don't have like the equipment and tools that we have, of course.
Right. Yeah.
But you can practice the handling. And a lot of the times when I get dogs who are struggling with grooming, we go way back to before tools. So before I ever put a brush or a comb or a scissors, I just practice handling their paws, handling their face, their ears, different things. So they can absolutely start practicing the handling from puppyhood, no tools needed. And then you can move on to tools and brushing depending on your breed, you know. But yeah, there's lots of stuff you can do. Practice and familiarity. I suppose even the handling is familiarity. If your dog lands on my table as a puppy or something, and I go lifting up its paws and flipping back its ears, and they're like, this never happened to me, what's going on? If that was done to them, if they're habituated to that already, it's a thing of nothing by the time they even
Yeah.
get to their first groom, you know?
Definitely, and I think it's not. That's of course, like, yes, it's very relevant for grooming, but it's going to be relevant for vet visits and all the rest
Exactly.
of it as well
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
future. You know, getting a dog used to, like you say, you touching their paws, touching their ears,
Yeah.
kind of just being kind of like fairly hands on and
Yeah,
doing things that a groomer or a vet might later be doing, makes so much sense.
definitely. And I always say to people as well, a big thing with grooming, it's not really like the handling thing is huge no matter what. It
Mm-hmm.
serves them in all different things, but also, for me, with the type of grooming that I do, when I tell people about preparing puppies for grooming and stuff like that, I always say, watch for signs of discomfort or not wanting to take part in, we'll say, a lot of the poodle mixes, they're constantly being told by groomers, you need to brush your dog, get a slicker brush your dog every day, understandably, because they want furry, fluffy teddy bear dogs, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of maintenance, but don't brush your dog to the point where the dog is uncomfortable or is showing signs of discomfort or negativity, any sign of that, and stop, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually have like it's again goes back to the balancing act. They need to be brushed and their coat needs to be maintained. But if we push them too much with brushing or different activities and they're showing signs of discomfort or fear, and we don't stop and like reevaluate or give them that break or let them know we're listening, then we create the opposite. We create negativity with those acts, you know.
Yeah,
That's a big one that I
absolutely.
always tell people from my type of grooming perspective, you know.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned some breeds already. So, are there specific breeds or personalities that struggle more with grooming, and how do you adapt for those if there are some? I'm guessing some of the breeds with the kind of longer or curlier coats are probably going to need longer and more intensive grooms. So,
Yeah,
I'm guessing that might be a case. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's the the poodle mixes, the curly coats. There is they're high maintenance coats.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of grooming. They have to go through a lot. Like, so they need obviously really good baths, really good brush outs. And then when they're styled, they have hairy paw pads that need shaving out. They have hair from their ears that need to be removed. Then there's the styling of the body, then the styling of the face. And it's a huge amount of work. So I suppose it's like I suppose it's being put through the mill for those type of dogs, but when it's done very regularly, it makes it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why groomers are pushing for regular grooming for these type of dogs. Like it makes the groom faster, it makes it more comfortable for them. Um, yeah, though, and I guess what I think kind of dogs that struggle is not a breed because I don't really like it's it's not a nature or nurture discussion. It's always both. But like,
Mm-hmm.
specific breeds don't struggle with grooming. But like, what I find is like different stages of their life. So like senior dogs, they need like a bit more consideration. They can be
Mm-hmm.
stiff, they can be in pain, they can be, like, so we have to be very careful with them and they can struggle. Being expected, like if you had a large senior dog and it needed to be in the groomers for 3 hours or something, imagine that dog having to stand for 3 hours, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like you have to adapt for them. You have to leave them lie down if they need to lie down. And I always say to people, and a lot of my colleagues, I hear my colleagues say this too with the seniors, like, this is not a styling groom. This is a comfort groom. It will be
Mm-hmm.
like, it doesn't matter how it turns out because if the dog wants to lie down, because, for the reasons I said, and we can't get at it to make it perfect, that's fine, as long as they're like from a welfare perspective groomed. And I suppose your flat face breeds, your bracky
Mm-hmm.
breeds, they can struggle. They can struggle with restraints because a lot of them can't even have collars. So then they go into the groomers and a loop is put, and you know they can struggle with that. They can struggle with the heat of the dryers, and then being flat faced, like not being able to cool down or like water in their nose is a huge panic for those type of dogs, which shouldn't happen, but and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen really. But even the panic of it, um, yeah, I suppose not a specific breed, but maybe dogs at different life stages and dogs with different, I suppose, physicalities can.
Mm-hmm.
I find a
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah.
overweight dogs struggle with grooming. That's a big thing. So like if you're trying to, we'll say, lift a paw or lift a leg, like to do a sanitary trim or thing, and they're really overweight and they're really struggling with balance or trying to hold themselves on, that can be tough, like.
Mhm.
So yeah, I find overweight dogs, like I'm always worried about them in the grooming room. That I feel they're struggling a lot, like, they're kind of being exerted a lot.
And I suppose in all ways, like you say, like because they're more likely to overheat.
Yeah,
They're and particularly if they're stressing, they're going to
exactly.
find it more difficult to balance. There's going to be more. They might have some pain as well because
Yeah,
there's more pressure on the joints.
yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of things coming together then for those guys. And I'm wondering as well now about other types of aids. People might already be thinking about some of these ideas in their heads as we talk through this topic. Things like pheromone sprays, or even things like calming music in a grooming space. Do you use these? Do you think that there's space for them? How do you feel about those?
Yeah, definitely. There's space for anything that like can add
Mhm.
to a calming atmosphere for a dog.
Yeah.
So like music wise, I actually remember a long time ago hearing about somebody like a groomer who she was listening to like heavy metal music all the time. And
Mhm.
one day she was like to somebody, my dogs are always so stressed, and they were like so like that's anecdotal, but there is evidence to say that classical and relaxing music. There are some studies, loose evidence to say that that kind of
Mhm.
music has a calming effect on dogs. So I would probably keep the music on that kind of tempo, the environment. So
Yeah.
even within you, if you're listening, like, and they do read and feel from us a lot, like if you're listening to relaxing music that you enjoy, that's making you feel pretty zen, that's going to help the dog,
Yeah.
you know? Um, it's the same, like, if an owner is coming in with a dog and the owner is really anxious and nervous about the dog being groomed, the dog feels like, if my guardian's scared, I should be scared. What's going wrong? There's a threat. You know what I mean? So we definitely do like feed dogs to an extent, how we feel. So I'll play music that'll keep me happy and that will rub
Mhm.
off on the dogs. I do have like, I did early on get like adaptable plugins and stuff like that. I do have those going. I don't know for certain if they make a difference. Um, I know there's a holistic groomer in the UK, Sue Williamson, and she swears by the pet remedy. She thinks it makes a
Mhm.
huge difference to dogs, which I get. Like, if it works, it works. And that's the reason I have the Adaptil and stuff like that. I suppose I can't really, when you're working with those type, it probably is making a difference to the environment. But with the way I work, I don't have dogs, hopefully have dogs into the above the threshold or stressed out anyway to see.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I don't, it's about, for me, it's about not having them go there, you know?
And I suppose it's not going to be one thing either.
Yeah,
It's I've never seen an extremely stressed dog, and you put on a bit of Beethoven, and then they're delighted.
that's a good
It's just
point.
it's not going to be a flip of a switch either. Like you say, you're working through much more complex minefield of emotions and kind of different things that you can change up as you're working through kind
Yeah.
of more fear-free grooming. So um, maybe these things have a little positive impact, but no one thing on its own is going to make a night or
Yeah.
day light switch change
Yeah.
either, is it?
And anything, look, I'm open to anything I can add to the environment that even might have a calming or relaxing effect. I'll have it there. I'll do
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. And now that you're working quite a lot with these situations as well, I'm sure it's extremely difficult and everything you do, but I'm sure a lot of it's quite rewarding as well. So I wanted to ask, what are some of the more rewarding parts of combining, say, these kind of training and behavior techniques and fear-free techniques with grooming?
oh yeah, it's very rewarding. It really
Hmm.
is so rewarding. And like, it's simple things for me. Like, I had a client say to me one day, my dog never came out of the groomers with her tail wagging. Like, she came to collect her dog and the dog's tail was wagging in behind in the salon with me. And she was like, I never collected my dog and saw her with a wagging tail after the groomers, you know, and that is so, so rewarding to me. Like, that's huge to me. And like seeing a dog, like I had seeing the progress, because, you know, sometimes early on in these, especially dogs that have had bad or negative experiences, um, it can be very, very slow. So like it's easy, or I'll say easier, to start with a blank canvas. So like starting with a puppy and introducing them correctly and stuff like that and taking it slow. But when you're working back from the negativity or the fear or whatever set in, it can be much harder and it can be very slow. And you're under pressure. Well, I definitely put the pressure on myself anyway, to try and get this, you know, you're trying to go, well, I need to get this done for the client, for the guardian, like they need to be groomed, they need to be looked after, but I also have the side of balancing their emotional well-being. And sometimes in the thick of it at the start, you're a bit like, will I ever be able to help this dog? Or, you know, it's going so slow. I hope the client is not like, you know, getting like, you know, worried or, you know, getting losing faith, really.
Yeah, impatient. Yeah.
Yeah, and then time passes and like all of a sudden that dog that used to come in with a muzzle on doesn't need a muzzle anymore. And then you
Yeah,
go,
that's
it was
amazing.
all worth it, you know, and you're just
Exactly.
like, it was all worth it. And he, like, for me, like, there was one cockapoo in particular that was so terrified, like, so, so terrified. And a lot of the time when dogs are terrified like that, they're not going to take food, they're not going to play, of course. They're just in survival mode, you know, they feel threatened. And this guy in particular started playing with me one day, like full on playing with it. And I was like, this is like all the times where I was the times where I was like, can I actually do this? Can I actually help this dog? And the stress and the worry, it made it so worth it. Like when you just see pure joy playing with a toy there in that
Exactly.
environment that was so terrifying to him, you know?
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and it's really really amazing the work and the effort that you put into getting to the dogs
Thank you.
to that place. So keep up the great work, and thank you so so much for coming on and sharing with us as well. It's just fascinating to have a look into the world of you and what you get up to with your fear free grooming. It's really brilliant.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm actually so delighted to get the chance to talk about this. It's been lovely. Thank you.
So appreciated. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thanks.
Chat again very soon.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. And once again, a huge thank you to Jess for coming on and sharing such wonderful knowledge with us all this week on the podcast. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about what Jess gets up to at Clip A Doodle Doo, or what we get up to at Ruby Reese and at dognutrition.ie, you can find all of our websites, social media handles, and all the rest of that good stuff in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening in, and we'll be back to you with another episode very soon.